16th?
Your name right there too, please.
Today's 16th, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Should I read this before I sign it?
I think so. It's only $1 million. It's not much at all.
Great. I'm good.
All right. Thank you. Start.
All right, so with the first question, with your experience as being a senator of the 17th District of Michigan, do you believe raising the minimum wage would cause a positive or negative effect on the economy here in Michigan?
It could certainly cause a negative impact.
Yeah.
History shows us that raising the minimum wage has a tendency of causing, especially small businesses, the type in small towns, type of businesses that hire students. When their costs go up, they cannot hire as many. So it could certainly have a negative impact. Now, having said that, I'll also tell you that we have to have a minimum wage. I support the minimum wage program, but we have to be very careful when we increase the minimum wage because of the effects on small businesses.
Could raising the minimum wage have a large effect on the global economy, seeing that every state has a different size minimum wage?
Yeah, I think it should be left up to the state rather than the federal government, because every state is a different community, and I think their needs and their abilities to provide for their citizens are different from state to state. So every state should have the ability to create the minimum wage that they want. I do not think it would benefit us to have a national, even though we do, but business doesn't have to follow the federal guidelines. They usually follow the state guidelines.
Having a very diversified district, do you feel that raising the minimum wage would have a largely different effect in towns like Mabee versus the cities like Monroe?
Yes. Again, it's those small businesses in small towns that are barely making it. If you mandate to them that they have to increase their costs, that could force them to have financial difficulties.
In 2014, more than 2.3 million cars and trucks rolled off Michigan assembly lines, over 1.5 million at assembly plants located in the Detroit region. The state is home to 13 OEM assembly plants and 35 OEM component plants, including suppliers. There are over 17,000 automotive-related manufacturing establishments in Michigan. Do you feel like raising the minimum wage could cause many or some of these factories to reduce the labor force there, or even possibly move altogether?
No, because these type of factories don't use the minimum wage. They're using a wage based upon the technical aspects of the job. I don't know of any of those factories that would use minimum wage.
How often do you see the minimum wage topic arise in the Senate?
I think in the last 6 years I've been in the legislature. I've had 4 years in the House and 2 years in the Senate. I believe that issue has come up maybe twice.
Okay.
So it doesn't come up very often.
Yeah.
I think it comes up more when you're in a recession or as you're coming out of a recession. Of course, we're just coming out of a recession now.
Yeah.
If the federal minimum wage was raised, how would that stand between the economic differences of a place like Utah, where minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, versus states like California, where minimum wage is $10 an hour?
Give me that question again.
Okay. Yeah. So if the federal minimum wage was raised of itself, how do you feel that would affect the different economies, such as how Utah has a $7.25 an hour, and states like California has $10 an hour?
I don't know how their state law is written, but it could have a devastating effect on those small businesses. Even though I personally think $7 is too low. Again, the important part of this is that businesses like this cafe, this coffee cafe, they can't afford to pay $20 an hour for somebody to work here. You know how many cups of coffee they have to sell to make that back in a day's wages. We had the same issue here in Michigan when McDonald's employees wanted to raise the minimum wage to 15. I think out in California, I know you said 10, but I thought it went to 15.
Not yet. I think that's still in the
That's still
works.
okay. I know that it was talking about it.
Yeah.
That would be devastating to McDonald's or Burger King or whoever it would be, where they rely on students, people your age, to come in and work. Can you imagine what that would do to the price of a hamburger? You probably couldn't afford to go to McDonald's to eat anymore. So we have to understand that the minimum wage was put in effect to help those that's just entering the workforce. It wasn't put into effect to provide a lifetime wage. It's really a starting point for new wage earners. And I think we have to keep that in mind. So many times we don't. And I quite frankly think there's some problems with businesses that remain at a minimum wage when in fact perhaps they should be increasing wages as a person matures, learns the business, and does more for the business.
The CBO estimates that raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour would lift 900,000 people out of poverty. And wages wouldn't just rise minimum wage workers. Families with incomes up to 6 times the poverty threshold would see increases in real income. With numbers like this, why hasn't the minimum wage been raised yet in Michigan?
I'm not sure how accurate those numbers really reflect what's going on in Michigan. So many times you receive numbers like that from different organizations that have a reason to show those kind of numbers. And quite frankly, I could probably institute a survey and come up with just the opposite of those numbers. So I think you have to be very careful when you're looking at numbers from organizations that has a definite play in the game. But getting to the question, again, I think when it comes to minimum wage, we have to consider what's best for small businesses, and especially small businesses in small towns.
When minimum wage was originally created in 1938, it was only 25
Before
cents.
my time.
Yeah, it was only 25 cents. If you adjust that for inflation, that would only be $4.13 today. How does the current minimum wage reflect the inflation cost, being $8.50 currently in Michigan?
Well, it's actually more than double than what the inflation rate would have been. So I think we've done very well getting it to the $8. I think that's where it needs to remain until something different changes in our business world, in our employment world. I think we're at a good number today.
All right. So small businesses, like you were saying, they make up 99.7% of U.S. employer firms. However, sadly, 9 out of 10 small businesses fail the first year, and the ones that do make it past the first year, half of them fail within the next 4 years. Do you think raising the minimum wage could hurt these businesses and the small businesses trying to still grow out of that first 5-year period?
Yes, it would. It would hurt their ability to, if they can't make it financially, raising their cost is just going to put them in further debt quicker and faster and probably close up even faster. We have to make sure that new businesses has the ability to make the decision what is best for themselves and hire based upon on what they can do to pay and provide benefits and that sort of thing. Not all businesses can provide health care. Not all businesses can pay $15 an hour. It would just cause enough financial problems that they would close their doors. And especially businesses that employ minimum wage employees. The reason they do that is because what that employee is doing doesn't fit a more technical employment, such as I own an automotive and truck repair shop. I don't pay minimum wage at all because my guys that work for me, they have to be certified by the state of Michigan or certified by the federal government. They have to remain educated and trained on new things on automobiles every year. So there's a cost to that, and part of that cost is having employees that want to continue in that business and get retrained. And that's worth more to me as an employer than someone that doesn't have to be trained. So consequently, I pay more than minimum wage.
Yeah. And then, could you see raising minimum wage too soon at either a national or even state level being their possible cause to a separate recession, much like we saw in 2008 at all?
I don't think a minimum wage will cause a recession,
Okay.
but it certainly would delay coming out of a recession.
And the last question, do you believe that this quote by Jan Kingsford stands true at minimum wage? Balance is not something you find, it's something you must make.
Give me the quote again.
Balance is not something you find, it's something you must make. Do you think that stands true at minimum wage so far?
I think there's a lot of truth to it is what you make it as an individual. If you use a minimum wage as a starting point and you learn the business and decide to make it a lifetime career, you will find that minimum wage will last a very short time, and you will be moved up that ladder of wages. And I think that's what we all hope happens, is that we don't want to live with a minimum wage our life. We want to be able to go on and do something more and be paid a good, fair wage.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That wraps up that part.
Thank you for taking the time to